Today we're going to continue along with our allium plot here, and we're going to plant some shallots. And I'm going to show you a really cool way to make sure you get even and precise spacing on your shallot sets. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell button down below so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. If you're a frequent viewer of our channel, it's always good to have you back. So last week we got started on this plot right here where we're going to put all of our alliums, our onions, our leeks, our shallots, and our elephant garlic. And we planted 2 rows in that video. We planted a row of these Savannah sweet onions, and these guys are starting to take off, starting to grow. So we'll be hitting those with some 20 pretty soon. And then we also planted a row of these Matejko leeks. And one of the commenters on the video said that I didn't plant the leeks deep enough, and he's probably right. Supposedly the deeper you plant them, the more of that white piece you get, which is what everybody wants. That's the kind of edible portion of the leek. So I'm probably going to take my single wheel hoe and come in here and throw some dirt on top of those guys and hill them up a little bit so we get a longer white portion on those leeks. And like I mentioned on that previous video, we're not preparing this whole plot at one time. We're just going to prepare a little piece at a time as we slowly plant all of these alliums in here. So we still got some of this sorghum Sudan grass growing, and I want you to look at how much this stuff has grown in just a week. So on that last video I had just mowed it, and this stuff has just grown back really pretty, really nice. I'll probably have to mow it again pretty soon. It's amazing how great this stuff just keeps growing and keeps feeding the soil. So for our shallots, I've got 4 rows intended here for shallots. I've already got the drip tape laid. As you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of drip tape. We're going to put in 4 rows of shallots. So I cultivated this area a few days ago, put my drip tape down, and today I'm going to show you how we can do some really nice plant spacing with this wheel hoe attachment here, this gnarly looking little attachment that we call the dibble wheel. So if you've never grown or planted shallots before, we plant them from these little immature bulbs here we call sets. And shallots sets can come in several different shapes and sizes. We have one called Ambition, which is more rounded. I don't have that one here with me today. And then we have these other 2. This one here is called Monique. It is a semi-long shallot, so it's a little bit rounded, but it has an elongated shape. And then we have this other one here called Roderick, and it's what they call a banana shallot. I kind of like these elongated ones here because they're a lot easier to slice. Now shallots are kind of like what we call a cooking onion. So they don't get as big as like a Vidalia onion or a traditional onion, but they get pretty decent size, and they have a milder, sweeter flavor. They're really good in sauces and soups and stuff like that. So we'll overwinter these just like we do our onions. We'll plant them now and then harvest in early spring. Now let's talk about this cool little attachment here that we call the dibble wheel. And I'm particularly fond of this attachment because I kind of helped design it. And we'll go over the parts of it. It's pretty simple, and there's a lot of customization that can be done with this attachment here. So you have this little bracket arm that attaches to the wheel hoe frame right there, and it extends back when there's an axle right there that runs through that bracket arm. Now the neat thing about the way we designed this is you can use one of these dibble wheels at a time. You can use 2 like I'll be doing today for a double row. You can use 3 or even 4. The standard axle length that we provide is 15 inches long, but we've had customers call that wanted a 30-inch axle, and we can easily cut one for whatever size you need. What do you think, Tiger? That's pretty cool, ain't it? So in our kits we include these little lock collars right here, and that allows you to lock the wheels in place along that axle, so you can get whatever row spacing you want there if you're doing multiple rows. Or you can put that dibble wheel anywhere you want to along the axle and lock it in place with an Allen wrench. Now these are the same wheels that you see on the front of the wheel hoe there, and you can use this with the double wheel hoe, the single, or the high arch. It works with all three. But it's the same wheel, 15-inch diameter, and we just have holes drilled in them there, and then we have these aluminum dibbles there with a little nut that screws into that hole. So these dibbles have a bolt installed into them, and then they attach through the wheel just like that. And you can control the plant spacing you want here. I've got these on a 4-inch spacing. So the circumference of this wheel is 48 inches, and we include 12 dibbles here, so that puts them 4 inches apart. But you can change that. You can take these dibbles and turn them inside, or just remove them completely. So you can get 4-inch spacing, you can get 8-inch spacing, lots of different spacing options there you can go with. Now the recommended spacing on shallot sets is about 4 to 6 inches, so I've got them, all the dibbles in place today. And they're, like I said, they're 4 inches apart on this wheel, but when that extends out, it actually ends up being closer to a 6-inch center when you're planting with it. And so these things just poke a nice little hole in the ground. It does work better if your soil's a little moist. So I installed this drip tape, like I said, a few days ago, and let the water run so the soil will be nice and moist, so it would poke a nice hole in the soil there. If your dirt's real fluffy, that hole might cave in on you. So it works better in firmer soils, or if you have real fluffy soils, just wet it down a little bit before you use the dibble wheel. So what I'm doing today with this setup, I have my drip tape buried there where my row is going to be, and I'm using this double dibble wheel setup to basically straddle that tape and poke holes on each side of that tape. Now these wheels do rotate independently, so you can set it up and stagger them if you want to. In this case, I'm not really worried about it with the shallots. We'll just let them run how they're going to run, but you can set it up to where the holes are staggered or opposite one another along the row there. And this attachment, not only is it going to work really great for these shallots today, but you can use it for transplants as well. You might have seen some previous videos where I showed using it to put in some beet transplants. You could use it for about any kind of transplant you want to. We designed these holes to fit really well with the cell size in our 162 seed starting trays. But you could even use it for seeds if you wanted to plant squash or pumpkins or corn or beans, or really anything. If you wanted to mark really nice evenly spaced holes to put seeds in the ground, this would be a great way to do it as well. So I'm going to run along this row here and use this dibble wheel to mark my hole locations to put my shallot sets. I can see that little kind of split in the soil there. That's how I know where my drip line is. So even though it's buried, I can see where it's at, so I make sure I straddle it. I don't want to run over it with those dibbles, because that would puncture it and then we'd have to patch a leak. But I can see that little line there, that crack in the soil where that drip tape line is expanded, and that lets me know where to run my wheel hoe so I don't puncture that. All right, check that out. Now, isn't that cool? Look at there. All those nice little evenly spaced planting divots there along this whole row here. And all we got to do is just put those shallot bulbs in that little hole there, and maybe squeeze a little dirt around them. But it doesn't get much easier than that, folks. You just walk down the line and it does all the work for you. Now you could easily do this if you wasn't using drip tape. You could put 3 or 4 of them on there if you were planting on a 30-inch bed and mark as many holes as you'd like. Or if you just want to do 1 row at a time, you can do that. But that design I used today works awesome for straddling that drip tape and doing a double row on the tape. So I told you guys a story earlier. I do have some of these these ambition shallots. I'm going to plant some of those too. They were just hiding and I couldn't find them. So these here have more rounded bulb on them. This is a more traditional shaped shallot. And when we put these in the hole here, we want to orient them a certain way. We can see there's a root end to that shallot there, and then this end right here is where the vegetation or the stem is going to grow. And we basically just want to sit them down in the hole like that and put a little bit of dirt around them. Now I learned this last year kind of on accident when I was planting them, because I had one fall in a hole. I accidentally dropped one in the garden like this, and it grew really well as opposed to my others when I didn't completely cover them. So I'm not going to completely cover these guys. We're just going to put them in the hole like this and put a little bit of dirt around them like that there, and they should be fine. And then we should start seeing some green vegetation growing pretty soon right there. And that's all there is to it. All we got to do is just scoot along this row here and poke them in these holes. All right, so we got 1 row down, 3 more to go. Got those ambition shallots planted on this first row here. You can see those stem ends kind of poking out a little bit there. And those should start growing pretty soon. From my best estimation on a 40-foot double row right here, it takes about 1.5 to 2 pounds of shallots. There's about 100 shallot sets per pound, so between 1.5 and 2 pounds per 40-foot double row. So now all we got to do is take our dibble wheel, mark off these other 3 rows, punch our little holes there, and plant the rest of these shallots. Still got to plant some of these Monique and some of these Roderick banana shallots. Alright, so we got our 4 rows of shallots planted there. I put some plant labels down there so I can remember what they are. I've got 2 rows of the ambition, or the round ones, a row of Monique, or the semi-long, and a row of Roderick, which is the banana shallot. I don't think I mentioned earlier, but I got these drip tape lines 2 feet apart. That's kind of my standard spacing on all these alliums. And then within the double row, those plants are probably about 5, or those sets are probably about 5 to 6 inches apart. Now I'm no shallot planting expert by any means. This is only my 2nd year growing them. But I did learn a few things from last year's planting and been able to kind of apply that here. I'd love to hear from you guys out there who are experts in planting and growing shallots. If you got any tips or tricks, put those in the comments and let me know. As far as our water and fertilization on these, we're going to treat them just like onions. Those shallots are heavy feeders as well, so that's why we use the drip tape. We can give them plenty of water, give them all the water they need. And we can also use that drip to inject our fertilizer in there. So we'll give them some 20-20-20 at the beginning to kind of encourage root development, and then switch over to just some straight nitrogen to really get some vegetation there. So we're not quite 1/3 of the way through filling this allium plot here. Still got a good bit of stuff to go. We've got elephant garlic, which will probably be next. And we've got some more onions and leeks that I've grown in the seed trays. We've got some Texas Legend and some Tadorna leeks that I grew in the seed trays we need to get in the ground. And we've also got some onion plants from Dixondale ordered. They should be here pretty soon. We're going to try their 1015 onion this year. It's a sweet onion, and also their white onion. And it's going to be interesting to see, to kind of compare the onions that they grow in the field and then sell to us as plants versus the ones we grow in the seed trays, and see if there's any difference between the two. If one grows better than the other, if one makes a bigger bulb than the other. I'll put some links below to our shallot sets, so you can pick up some of those if you want to plant some of those this fall and overwinter them like we're doing. I also put a link to our dibble wheel there. You can check that out. Like I said, we've got a single wheel, a double wheel, and a triple wheel version. Lots of customization there. If you enjoyed this video, give us a big like, give us a big thumbs up, and we will see you guys next time.